Kotlin tutorial for backend developers. Introduction. Kotlin is a modern programming language created by JetBrains that runs on the JVM and works smoothly with Java. Backend developers often learn Kotlin to build Spring Boot APIs, microservices, REST APIs, cloud-native applications, Android backends, Kotlin-based server applications, reactive applications, coroutine-based services, clean and concise backend code. A common learning topic is: how can Java backend developers learn Kotlin quickly? This guide explains Kotlin basics, Kotlin versus Java, variables, functions, classes, data classes, null safety, collections, extension functions, coroutines, Spring Boot with Kotlin, REST API development, testing, best practices, interview questions. Kotlin is officially described as a concise multi-platform programming language that can be used for server-side, mobile, web, and desktop development. Kotlin's null safety is one of its key features, designed to reduce null reference errors. Simple definition. Kotlin is a concise JVM language that helps developers write safer and cleaner code than traditional Java. Simple idea. Java-style backend code. Down. Kotlin. Less boilerplate. Safer null handling. Cleaner APIs. Example. Java. Public class user. Private string name. Public user string name. This name equals name. Public string get name. Return name. Kotlin. Data class user. Val name. String. Why backend developers learn Kotlin. Backend developers learn Kotlin because it helps with cleaner code, less boilerplate, null safety, Java interoperability, Spring Boot development, modern backend APIs, async programming using coroutines, readable business logic. Backend developers already understand Java, APIs, databases, REST, services, testing, deployment. Kotlin builds on those skills. Kotlin versus Java feature. Java, Kotlin, boilerplate more or less. Null safety, limited. Built-in data classes, more code. Built-in extension functions, no native support. Built-in coroutines, not native. Built-in ecosystem. JVM support, yes. Spring Boot support, strong. Learning curve, familiar, easy for Java developers. Simple rule. Kotlin feels like modern Java with less boilerplate. Kotlin backend architecture overview. Typical backend architecture. Controller, service, repository, database. Spring Boot with Kotlin. Kotlin REST controller. Kotlin service. Spring Data JPA repository. PostgreSQL. Example full stack architecture. React frontend. Spring Boot Kotlin API. PostgreSQL, Redis, Kafka, RabbitMQ. Step 1. Install Kotlin. For backend development, usually you use Kotlin through Q IntelliJ IDEA, Q Gradle, Q Maven, Q Spring Initializer. Check Kotlin in Gradle point. Plugins. Kotlin JVM, version 2.1.0. For Spring Boot Kotlin apps, you usually create the project with Spring Initializer language, Kotlin, build tool, Gradle or Maven, dependencies, Spring Web, Spring Data JPA, PostgreSQL. Spring Boot has official Kotlin support and documents Kotlin null safety integration with Spring APIs. Step 2. Kotlin file extension. Kotlin files use KT. Example, userservice.kt, ordercontroller.kt, productrepository.kt. Step 3. Hello World, fun main, println hello Kotlin. Compared with Java. Public class main. Public static void main, string args. System.out.println, hello Java. Kotlin is shorter. Step 4. Variables. Kotlin has two main variable keywords. Keyword meaning. Val, immutable, cannot reassign. Var, mutable, can reassign. Example. Val name equals Newman. Var age equals 41. Val example. Val language equals Kotlin. Language equals Java. Compile error. Var example. Var count equals 1. Count equals 2. Backend best practice. Prefer val unless you really need var. Step 5. Types. Kotlin can infer types. Val name equals John. Val age equals 30. Val active equals true. Explicit types. Val name string equals John. Val age int equals 30. Val salary double equals 75,000.0. Val active boolean equals true. Common Kotlin types. Type, meaning, string text, int integer, long, large integer, double, decimal number, boolean, true, false, big decimal, money, accurate decimals. For money, val amount equals big decimal, 99.99. Step 6, functions. Basic function. Fun, greet. Print, line. Hello. Function with parameter. Fun, greet. Name, string. Print line. Hello, name. Function with return value. Fun, add. A int b. Int. Return a plus b. Short form. Fun, add a int. B, int. Int equals a plus b. Step 7, string templates. Kotlin supports string interpolation. Val, name, equals John. Println, hello, $. Expression. Val, price, equals 100. Val tax, equals 13. Println, total, price plus tax. Useful for logs. Logger.info, order created, order ID equals order ID. Kotlin variables are non-null by default. Val name, string, John, name null, compile error, nullable type. Val email, string, equals null, safe call. Println, email, comma, length. Elvis, operator. Val display email equals email dot no email. Kotlin's null safety system is designed to reduce null reference problems by separating nullable and non-nullable types. Step 9. Avoid is. The idiot operator forces a nullable value to non-null. Bad. Val length equals email double question mark. Problem. If email is null, app crashes. Better. Val length is email.length/0. Backend rule. Avoid asterisks in production code. Step 10. If expression. In Kotlin, if can return a value. Val status is if amount greater than big decimal 0, valid, else invalid. Short form. Val message, if active, active, else inactive. Step 11. When expression. When is like a better switch. Val status message equals when status. Created, order created. Paid, payment completed. Cancelled, order cancelled. Else, unknown status. With enum. Enum class order status. Created, paid, cancelled. Val message equals when status. Order status created, created. Order status paid, paid. Order status cancelled, cancelled. Step 12. Classes. Basic class. Class user. Var name string equals 0. Class with constructor. Class user. Val ID long. Val name string. Val email string. Create object. Val user equals user 1. John at example.com. Step 13. Data classes. Data classes are very useful for DTOs. Data class user response. Val ID long. Val name string. Val email string. Kotlin automatically provides com equals com hashcode com to string copy component functions. Example. Vol user equals user response 1 John at example.com. Val updated equals user.copy name equals Mary. Kotlin's official Spring Boot tutorial uses data classes when building JSON responses in a Spring Boot Kotlin project. Step 14. DTOs in Kotlin. Request DTO. Data class create product request. val name, string, val description, string, val price, big decimal, val category, string. Response, DTO. Data class, product response, val ID long, val name string, val price big decimal, val category, string. Benefits. Less code. Immutable by default. Easy JSON serialization. Clean API contracts. Step 15. Collections. List. Val names equals list of John, Mary, Alex. Mutable list. Val names equals mutable list of John names add Mary. Map. Val user roles equals map of John to admin, Mary to user. Set. Vol tags equals set of Java, Kotlin, Spring. Step 16. Collection operations. Filter. Val active users equals users.filter it.active. Map. Val emails equals users.map it.email. Find. Vol user equals users.find. It ID equals 1L. Group. Val users by role equals users.group by it role. Backend use cases. Check. Filtering users. Check. Mapping entities to DTOs. Check. Grouping reports. Check. Transforming API responses. Step 17. Extension functions. Extension functions add functions to existing classes. Example. Fun string to slug string. Return lowercase dot replace space dash end. Use. Val slug equals Kotlin backend tutorial. Backend example. Fun product to response. Product response. Return product response. Id equals id. Name equals name. Price equals price. Category equals category. This is useful for entity to DTO mapping. Step 18. Object and companion object. Singleton object. Object app constants. Const val API version equals v1. Use println app constants.api version. Companion object. Class JWT constants. Companion object. Const val token prefix bearer. Step 19. Interfaces. Interface payment service. Fun process payment order ID long. Implementation. Class Stripe payment service. Payment service. Override fun process payment order ID long boolean. Spring Boot service. At service class. Order service. Private val payment service. Payment service. Step 20. Exceptions. Throw exception. Throw illegal argument exception. Invalid amount. Custom exception. Class resource not found exception. Message string. Runtime exception. Message. Use. Fun find user ID dash long user repository.findby.id or else throw resource not found exception. User not found. Step 21. Spring Boot Kotlin project. Typical project structure. SRC main Kotlin COM example app. COM controller, COM service, COM repository, COM entity, COM DTO, COM explication. Application class. At Spring Boot application. Class Kotlin backend application. Fun main AIS array string. Run application Kotlin backend application. Period AIS. Step 22. Kotlin REST controller. At REST controller. Request mapping API products. Class product controller. Private val product service. At get mapping fun get products. List product response. Return product service get products. Get mapping /ID. Fun get product. Path variable ID long. Product response. Return product service get product. At post mapping fun create product. At request body request create product request. Product response. Return product service create product. Simple idea. Controller receives HTTP request. Service handles business logic. Repository talks to database. Step 23. Kotlin service layer. At service class product service. Private val product repository. Product repository. Fun get products. list product response, return product repository.findAll, map it.to response. Fun get product ID long, product response. Val product equals product repository.findById, or else throw, resource not found exception, product not found. Return product.to response. Fun, create product, request, create product request, product response. Val product is product, name is request.name, description is request.description, price is request.price. Return product repository.save.product to response. Step 24. Kotlin entity with JPA, @entity, @table maintenance products, class product. ID, @generated value, strategy equals, generation type identity. Val ID, long, equals null. Var name, string. Var description, string, equals null. Var price, big decimal. Var category, string. Important JPA note. JPA entities need careful Kotlin setup because JPA expects no-arc constructors and open classes/proxies. In Kotlin Spring projects, plugins like Kotlin Spring and Kotlin JPA are commonly used to make Spring JPA integration smoother. Step 25. Kotlin repository interface, product repository, JPA repository, product long. Fun, find by category, category string. Fun, find by name containing ignore case, name string, list product. Spring Data JPA works well with Kotlin repositories. Step 26. Validation. Request, DTO. Data class, create product request. @field, not blank, val name, string. Val description, string, comma. @field, not null, @field, positive, val price, big decimal. @field, not blank val category, string. Important Kotlin detail. Use @field annotation target for validation annotations on constructor properties. Controller. @post mapping, fun create product, plus @valid @request body, request, create product request. Product response. Return product service create product request. Step 27. Global exception handler. @REST controller advice, class global exception handler. @exception handler, resource not found exception class. Fun handle not found, X resource not found exception. Response entity error response. Return response entity dot status, HTTP status dot not found. Body error response, error code equals, resource not found. Message equals X message, resource not found, error response. Data class error response. Val error code string. Val message string. Step 28. Coroutines. Coroutines are Kotlin's way to write asynchronous code in a clean style. Simple example. Suspend fun fetch user, ID long, user response, return user client.getUser ID. Kotlin documentation describes coroutines as lightweight alternatives to threads that can suspend without blocking system resources and let developers write asynchronous code in a natural sequential style. Step 29. Coroutine controller example. @REST controller, @request mapping, API users, class user controller, private val user service, get mapping, ed ID, suspend fun get user, path variable ID, user response, return user service.getUser ID. Use coroutines when working with. Check. Non-blocking APIs, Webflux, async service calls, external HTTP calls, high concurrency systems. Beginner note. For normal Spring MVC plus JPA apps, learn regular Kotlin first. Learn coroutines after basics. Step 30. Kotlin with web client. @service class, user client. Private val web client. Suspend fun get user ID long. User response. Return web client.get. URI API users $ID. Retrieve body to mono user response.java. Useful for calling microservices, calling external APIs, calling gateway services, cloud native apps. Kotlin plus Spring Boot Gradle example plugins, Kotlin JVM version 2.1.0, Kotlin plugin Spring version 2.1.0, Kotlin plugin JPA version 2.1.0, ID org Spring Framework Boot version 3.5.0, ID IO Spring Dependency Management version 1.1.7. Group equals com.example, version equals 0.0.1 snapshot. Java toolchain language version equals Java language version of 21. Repositories Maven Central. Dependencies implementation org Spring Framework Boot Spring Boot Starter Web. Implementation org Spring Framework Boot Spring Boot Starter Data JPA. Implementation com.fat Jackson module Kotlin. Runtime only org.postgresql PostgreSQL. Test implementation org.springframework.boot Spring Boot Starter Test. Tasks with type test. Use JUnit platform. Java to Kotlin cheat sheet. Java Kotlin final variable val. Mutable variable var. Pojo data class. Switch when optional t. Getters, setters, properties. Static method, companion object. Utility method, extension function. New user, user. Common Kotlin backend patterns. Entity to DTO mapping. Fun, product to response. Product response. Return product response. ID equals ID. Name equals name. Price equals price. Category equals category. Safer. Fun, product to response. Product response. Return product response. ID equals require not null ID. Name equals name. Price equals price. Category equals category. Constructor injection at service class order service. Private val order repository. Private val payment client. No need for at autowired. Immutable DTO data class order response. Val id equals long. Val status string. Val total big decimal. Enum usage. Enum class order status. Created, paid, cancelled. Common testing tools. Check. Unit 5. Check. Mock-K. Check. Mockito Kotlin. Check. Spring Boot test. Check. Cotest. Example unit test with Mock-K. Class product service test. Private val product repository is Mock-K product repository. Private val product service is product service product repository. At test, fun should return product by ID. Val product equals product. ID equals 1L. Name equals laptop. Price equals big decimal 999.99. Category equals electronics. Every product repository find by ID 1L returns optional of product. Val response equals product service get product 1L. Assert equals laptop. Response name. Spring Boot integration test at Spring Boot test. At autoconfigure mockmfc class product controller test. At autowired private val mockmfc. At test fun should get products. Mock MVC get API products and expect status is okay. Real world example product catalog API architecture React frontend dash Kotlin Spring Boot API dash product service Spring Data JPA PostgreSQL. Features. Create product. Check. Update product. Delete product. Search products. Filter by category. Pagination. Validation. Error handling. Unit tests. Integration tests. Kotlin backend. Roadmap. Beginner level. Learn. Check. Val and var. Functions. Classes. Data classes. Null safety. Collections. When expression. Build. Simple Kotlin console app. Intermediate level. Learn. Check. Spring Boot Kotlin. Check. REST controllers. Check. Services. Repositories. Check. DTOs. Check. Validation. Check. Exception handling. Build. Product CRUD API advanced level. Learn. Coroutines. Web client. Webflux. Kafka RabbitMQ. Test containers. Cloud native deployment. Observability. Build. Kotlin microservice with PostgreSQL and Kafka. Recommended learning path. Phase 1. Kotlin basics. Learn. Arctic. Variables, functions, classes, null safety, collections, goal. Understand Kotlin as a Java developer. Phase 2, Kotlin for APIs. Learn data classes, DTOs, extension functions, validation, exception handling. Build. Simple REST API DTO layer. Phase 3, Spring Boot Kotlin. Learn. Controllers, services, repositories, JPA entities, dependency injection, application.yml. Build. Product Management API Phase 4, Testing. Learn. C. JUnit 5, C. Mock-K, C. Spring Boot Test, C. Mock MVC, Test Containers. Build. Tested Kotlin REST API Phase 5, Cloud Native Kotlin. Learn. Action. Action. Kubernetes. Actuator. Prometheus. Kafka. Action. Redis. Build. Production-ready Kotlin microservice. Common beginner mistakes. 1. Using var everywhere. Bad. Var name equals John. Better. Val name equals John. Use immutable values by default. 2. Overusing exclamation mark. Bad. Val ID equals product ID dot. Better. Val ID equals require not null product ID. Or design code so null is handled safely. 3. Writing Java-style Kotlin. Bad. Class user private var name string equals 0. Fun get name string return name. Fun set name name string. This dot name equals name. Better. Data class user val name string. 4. Forgetting at field validation. Bad. Data class request at not blank val name. Better. Data class request add field not blank val name string. 5. Publishing entities as API responses. Bad. Fun get product product. Better. Fun get product product response. Use DTOs for API boundaries. 6. Ignoring JPA Kotlin plugins. For JPA projects, configure Kotlin Spring JPA plugins properly. 7. Learning coroutines too early. First, learn Kotlin basics, REST APIs. Then learn coroutines, best practices. Check. Prefer val over var. Use data classes for DTOs. Use null safety properly. Avoid exclamation marks. Use extension functions for mapping. Use constructor injection. Keep controllers thin. Put business logic in services. Use DTOs instead of exposing entities. Use at-field validation annotations. Configure Kotlin Spring plugin. Configure Kotlin JPA plugin if using JPA. Write unit tests. Write integration tests. Click. Use test containers for database tests. Click. Document API behavior. Click. Use clear package structure. Kotlin interview questions. 1. What is Kotlin? Kotlin is a modern JVM language created by JetBrains. It is concise, null-safe, interoperable with Java, and commonly used for backend and Android development. 2. What is the difference between val and var? Val is immutable after assignment. Var is mutable and can be reassigned. 3. What is a data class? A data class is a Kotlin class designed to hold data. It automatically provides methods like toString, equals, hashcode, and copy. 4. What is null safety? Null safety means Kotlin separates nullable and non-nullable types to reduce null pointer errors. 5. What does string mean? String means the variable can contain a string or null. 6. What is the Elvis operator? The Elvis operator option provides a default value when something is null. Example: val name equals input name or none. 7. What is an extension function? An extension function adds a new function to an existing type without modifying the original class. 8. What is a coroutine? A coroutine is a lightweight concurrency mechanism in Kotlin used for asynchronous programming. 9. Can Kotlin work with Java? Yes, Kotlin is fully interoperable with Java and runs on the JVM. 10. Is Kotlin good for Spring Boot? Yes, Spring Boot provides Kotlin support, and Kotlin is commonly used to build backend APIs and microservices. Kotlin versus Java for backend area. Java, Kotlin. DTOs, more boilerplate. Data classes, null handling, runtime risk, compile time safety. Collections, verbose, concise. Spring Boot, excellent, excellent. Learning familiar. Easy for Java devs. Async threads futures reactor. Coroutines reactor. Code style. Verbose, concise. Kotlin project ideas. Beginner projects. Calculator app. User DTO mapper. Simple console app. Collection filtering project. JSON parser demo. Intermediate projects. Check. Spring Boot Kotlin CRUD API. Check. Product Catalog API. Check. User Management API. Check. Blog API. Check. JWT Authentication API. Advanced projects. Kotlin Microservice. Kafka Event Consumer. Kafka RabbitMQ Worker. Coroutine-based API Client. Webflux Kotlin App. Cloud Native Kotlin Service. 30-day learning plan. Week 1. Kotlin Basics. Learn. Val and var. Types. Functions. Classes. Data classes. Null safety. Collections. Practice. Build Kotlin console examples. Week 2. Kotlin for backend. Learn. Check. DTOs. Extension functions. Exceptions. Validation. Mapping. Enums. Practice. Build DTO mapping examples. Week 3. Spring Boot Kotlin. Learn. Check. REST controller. Service layer. Repository. JPA entity. PostgreSQL. Exception handler. Practice. Build product CRUD API. Week 4. Testing and cloud native. Learn. JUnit 5. Mock K. Mock MVC. Test containers. Docker. Actuator. TestX. Basic Kubernetes. Practice. Test and containerize Kotlin Spring Boot API. Final summary. Kotlin is an excellent language for backend developers, especially Java and Spring Boot developers. Important concepts include val and var, functions, classes, data classes, null safety, collections, extension functions, Spring Boot controllers, services, repositories, DTOs, validation, testing, coroutines. Backend developers already understand. Check. Java, APIs, databases, REST, services, deployment. This makes Kotlin easier to learn. Key idea. Kotlin helps backend developers write safer, cleaner, and more concise backend applications while still using the Java ecosystem.